Many Detroit Pistons fans believe that Jaden Ivey can become the Robin to Cade Cunningham's Batman. Will this be the year he finally becomes it? We'll discuss it. Today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years for the Locked On Network. I didn't introduce myself. I said who I was, but I didn't actually say who I was. Kuka Hill. You guys know who I am. Like I said, covering the Pistons for the last 4 years with the Locked On Network. Been a credential media member over the last 3 years. I appreciate all of the support. Everyone who makes Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Or you can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. In today's episode, we are continuing our season previews. Media Days in like 10 days. Is it 9 days? We're a week and a half away from Media Day. Preseason's just 2 weeks away. Season's coming up, so we're continuing, I should say, our season previews with Jaden Ivey today. Last episode we did Jalen Duren, and we're going to follow the same kind of concept here. We're going to start off by discussing, just briefly going over Ivey's season this past year and what really is the goal going into this year. Then we'll dive into offensively how he can get there, and then defensively how he can get there. But like we did with Jalen Duren in this past episode, we have to do a bit of a season review for Jaden Ivey before we get into this upcoming season. And I know this is the player that everyone loves hearing me talk about the most. If there's one person you guys want to hear talk about Jaden Ivey, it is Kuka Hill. I know it. I know you guys absolutely love hearing my positivity with Jaden Ivey. All seriousness, though, Jaden Ivey this past season, obviously we know he suffered that injury that kept him out for the majority of this season. Was playing his best basketball of his career the previous 5 games before he went down with injury, shooting over 50% from 3, shooting over 60% on 2s. He was playing extremely well in those previous 5 games. Shot around 40% from 3 this past season. Right before he went down, like I said, it looked like that maybe he was turning a corner. And I've written about this a ton. The thing that was most disappointing about Jaden Ivey's season, the most disappointing part, was that when he got injured, we didn't get the answer. Ivey didn't get the answer. The Pistons didn't get the answer of, was this just a hot streak or was this him turning the corner? And we will never know. We won't know the answer to that because it was taken away from him. He didn't get the chance to prove it. So coming to this season, we will get to find out, can he carry over what it was happening the previous 5 games before he went down with injury when he was really turning the corner? Will he be able to carry that over, or will he prove that that was just a hot streak? We'll get into this a little bit more later, but offensively, Ivey is a very controversial player because so many people are, again, this is something we've talked about a ton. A lot of people believe he needs the ball in his hands, but really, he was at his best this past season, and he's been at his best throughout his career when he's playing off ball. When he's playing off ball off of another guard, that's when he's at his best. He ranked in the 91st percentile this past year in spot-up opportunities, scoring 1.24 points per possession. That's fantastic. He's been a really good catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, really going all the way back to his rookie year, especially on wide-open threes. He's been really good. We want to talk about non-corner threes as well. That's something where he really improved upon this past year, was hitting threes from above the break, providing a different type of gravity. He was in the 94th percentile, which again was very, very good. That's excellent. And then you just continue to go down the line of just all these off-ball archetypes coming off handoffs. He was scoring 1.09 points per possession. That's what put him in the 81st percentile. Everything that involves him playing off of someone else's gravity. As a cutter, he was in the 95th percentile, scoring 1.67 points per possession. He was fantastic playing off of Cade offensively for the Detroit Pistons this past year, where he must improve. And again, we are going to dive deep into the numbers in the following segment. We talk about where he has to improve offensively. He has to improve with the ball in his hands and becoming a better decision maker, a better scorer with the ball in his hands for him to become this Robin that people want him to become. And I guess that is a good way to segue into what the next part of this I want to talk about, which is the archetype in which Ivey is becoming an archetype that the NBA is telling us they don't value as much if you cannot be an impact two-way player. Or if you're not going to be a two-way impact player, you have to be the peak of the peak when it comes to offensive value. We are seeing guys like Anthony Simon, seeing guys like Colin Sexton, seeing guys like Malik Monk. These guys, all three of those guys, I would say are better scorers right now than Jaden Ivey. All of those guys are just not being valued across the NBA. I mentioned this in the podcast a few times recently that I just read something like a week ago talking about how the NBA is just not valuing these smaller offensive only guards anymore. It's kind of becoming the what is it of like the 2010s. I'm forgetting what's the heavy, I guess it's becoming kind of like the older days, earlier 2000s, mid 2000s, 2010s guy that takes a lot of mid-range shots. The role player just like to take middies. It's not something that teams are really valuing anymore. They like size, they like length, they like guys who can score on the or stop guys from scoring on the defensive end, that provide value on the defensive end while also coming back on the offensive end and not really needing to do a lot with the ball in their hands, just being able to catch and shoot, attack a closeout, and then make a read off that attacking a closeout. That's really what teams are valuing right now, especially if you have size and are an impact defender. And in order for Ivey, we're a few weeks away from the deadline for when he can be extended. I don't think he's going to be extended by the deadline, but we will see. It's not the end yet. But in order for Ivey to get extended, or for Ivey to get paid what he wants to get paid next year, there are two pathways, and we will outline them later on the podcast, but there are two avenues for Ivey to do this. Ivey will either, one, have to take a big jump defensively and become an actual two-way guy on the basketball floor. I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's going to happen. So the other outcome is this. He has to become the peak of the peak of offensive guards. And when I say that, I wrote about this with Ivey, I believe 2 weeks ago. The best like version, the best outcome of this archetype in the NBA right now is probably like a Tyler Herro, where he's improved as a passer, Herro has improved as a playmaker, as a decision maker, but also he's just an otherworldly shot maker off the dribble from beyond the arc, in the mid-range from floater. He has really good touch in the floater range, can get to the basket, can draw free throws. When you have to reach that type of level of player. If you're not reaching that level of scoring output with that type of efficiency from all three levels of the floor while also improving as a playmaker, you're just not going to be valued that much. You're just not going to be made a priority, whether it's your own team or another team. So those are the two avenues. If Ivey wants to become this Robin that so many Pistons fans believe he can become, he either has to make this jump defensively, and we'll outline how that can happen, or he has to make this jump offensively to a point where he is one of the best offensive scoring guards in the NBA. Again, this is something that I feel like a lot of people who maybe don't watch the rest of the NBA don't really get, is that there are a lot of guards that can score 18 points a game in the NBA now. There are a ton of them. There are a ton of guards that can score 19 points a game. The league is very talented. It's not just about now if you can score 19, 20. If that's what your specialty is going to be, you need to be averaging 24, 25, somewhere around there on 60 true shooting. You need to be uber efficient if that's all you're providing. Now, again, if you're providing other things and providing impact on the other side of the floor, then you don't have to do that. But again, if that's going to be your main impact on the game, is that the only way you can really impact? You have to be very good. You have to be elite. Absolutely elite. And just to give you guys Tyler Herro's numbers, he just made his first All-Star appearance this past year. Again, this is the guy that I compare and would say is like the best outcome of this type of archetype. He averaged 24 points a game this year. He shot 56% on twos. He shot 37.5% on threes on 9 attempts a game. Shot 47% from the field, and he had a 60.5 true shooting percentage, while also improving as a playmaker, averaged a career-high 5.5 assists per game. That's the kind of thing that Ivey would have to do if it's going to be the offensive jump. And there's a lot of fans that believe he can do it. We'll see if he can. What does he have to improve, though, to get there? That's what we will talk about next, coming up. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. OpenPhone lets me manage business calls and texts from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers with OpenPhone. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So like I mentioned earlier, Jaden Ivey has proven, I believe, he has proven through his career last year, but even earlier in his career, that he is good off ball. He is a very good cutter. He is a very good spot-up shooter, especially on wide-open attempts. On guarded attempts, he's been a little bit of a roller coaster throughout his career. Rookie year wasn't very good. Better his second year. Third year was okay. But he gets a lot of open threes on catch-and-shoot attempts, and he's very good on those. So I would say that he's a pretty good spot-up shooter. He's a very good cutter. He's very good coming off DHOs. He's very good attacking open space when on the weak side, on the secondary action. He's very good coming off screens, attacking downhill. That is where he's at his best. When someone else is creating this gravity, teams are focusing on another guard, and then he gets the ball and is able to attack a rotating defense. He's too athletic. He is too quick. He is too crazy fast to be stopped, really, in that regard. So that's where he's at his best, and he's really good at it. Really good at it. Where Ivey has to improve, though, if he wants to have a chance of becoming this Robin to Cade's Batman. And I guess I should probably include this. I don't know if you guys saw this report, or not report, this article from Clutch Points. Brett Seigel, he had an article, I believe 3 days ago, when he was talking about everything he's hearing throughout the offseason. He had a blurb on Jaden Ivey. And apparently rival GMs or teams around the league believe Ivey's situation in Detroit is up for speculation. I forget what the exact wording was. It was up for interpretation. That's what it was. And that some teams around the league believe, despite what Trajan says, believes that he could be the odd man out. You guys can take that for what you will, but I feel like I should include that in case you guys aren't updated with that, if you guys didn't hear that. Now, again, we've heard from Trajan all offseason. They've been speaking highly of Ivey, so we'll see how it plays out. But that was a little nugget that we heard a few days ago. But back to his preview. He has to improve as an on-ball guy, especially because Trajan has said that they are going to give Ivey a lot of the on-ball reps when Cade is not on the floor. That when he was asked about the backup point guard position, he says, well, Jaden Ivey's coming back. You asked JB Bickerstaff about this. He says, well, Jaden Ivey's coming back. They believe they are going to give another chance to Jaden Ivey to prove he can be impactful without Cade on the floor and run the offense for the Pistons. This past year, it was not very successful. When Cade and Ivey were on the floor together, they had a minus 4.1 net rating. I don't really want to really stay on that because a lot of that was, I guess, if you don't want to read on it, even though that's kind of a continuation of the 3-year sample that we have with them. But what really is important is when Cade was on the floor without Ivey, he was plus 4.6. When Ivey was on the floor without Cade, it was a minus 3.28 net rating. They were getting outscored by 3 points per 100 possessions, and the offensive rating fell to 110.8 when it was Ivey without Cade. Another thing, I wrote about this in his season review. If you haven't checked it out, I wrote this about 2 months ago. Over at the SUBSTACK. It's the most viewed article I've written. A lot of people really loved it, put a lot of work into it. If you haven't checked it out, I'll link it down below. I think you guys really enjoy it. But if you just look at the box score, he averaged 4 assists to 3 turnovers a game. Of the 51 players in the NBA to average at least 2.5 turnovers per game, Ivey ranked 44th in assists. Not very good assist to turnover ratio. One of the worst assist to turnover ratio for a guy of his usage in the NBA. if he is going to run this backup point guard and have those reps, he has to become a better decision maker. He has to become a better playmaker. And the ways in which he does this, and I did a film breakdown last week about this with Ivey, the areas he really has to improve on that are like the core issues of this. One, his ball handling is sneaky, not very good. There is so many of his turnovers come from him just losing control of the ball. Like a random drive to the basket, he just drops the ball. There was one possession I'm looking at right now against the Denver Nuggets. He gets Nikola Jokic on a switch over here on the left wing, and he just goes to do a crossover and just loses it and fumbles it right to Nikola Jokic. So many of his turnovers. I went through every turnover he had of the season. I went through every single one. Now I would say about 10 to 15% of them were just from him losing the ball. Just not really being reached at, not pressure. He just loses the ball. So improve the ball handling. That has to improve immensely. The next area that will improve his overall playmaking then takes us to, it's kind of all from the same root. It's all the same root of the problem. I believe I said that right, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. It all comes from the same source. I guess that's a better way. His lack of inability to make things happen in between the three-point line and the rim. That comes into play when it comes to him not being very good in isolation this past year. I lost the number for where he was in isolation. I will find the number for you guys. But that comes into play with that. Oh, he finished in the 7th percentile in isolation this past year, scoring just 6.63 points per 100 possession. I went through every single one of his turnovers. I think a lot of it has to do with his inability to make the right decision in between the three-point line and the rim. He can get to the rim. That's not a problem. He can hit, catch, and shoot threes. That's not a problem. It's when he's running a pick and roll or he's running an isolation and the opposing team forces him into a decision he has to make in the in-between area, whether it's a floater or making a kick out or probing a little bit, holding the ball a little bit, finding an open guy. He's not very good in that department. So that's the main issue. That was where about 80% of his turnovers came. Almost like, I'm not joking when I say that, 80% of his turnovers came teams forcing him into the middle area, in between area, and him just struggling to make the right read. Him struggling to either make a shot from that area or being confident to go into a shot in this area. I have a possession right in front of me I'm looking at here against the Orlando Magic where he raises up off a pick and roll from the high post area. He raises up into what looks to be an open pull-up jumper, but doesn't trust it, and then ends up trying to pass out of the shot to his left and turns the ball over. Just this indecisiveness of when he gets inside the three-point line is somewhere he has to improve, and that just improving in that area will improve his turnovers, and improve his scoring efficiency. It will improve how hard it is to guard him. It will make him a better scorer. Like all of it, so much of his issues, so many of Ivey's issues that if he improves, could take him to another level, just simply come from him improving his in-between area. He doesn't have much of a floater right now. He doesn't hit very many of them. He turns the ball over a ton in the in-between area. If you look at players, of the 113 players to have at least one isolation per game, Ivey ranked 15th in turnover frequency. He turns the ball over because when he gets into the in-between area and guys wall him off, or he's forced to go to a counter, or he's forced to make a decision, he's just not comfortable in that regard. So that's the main area Ivey has to improve on. Get a floater. Become a better decision maker in that area. Improve your ball handle. All of that will lead to better efficiency in that area, whether it's a pull-up jumper, whether it's a floater, one of the two. He has to improve in that area vastly. He has to improve in that area. This kind of is a part of the same issue as well. He wasn't very good as a pick and roll guy this past year. He ranked 38th as a pick and roll ball handler, or 38th percentile, as a ball handler in the pick and roll. Of the 74 players to have at least 4 pick and roll ball handling possessions per game, Ivey ranked 56th in field goal percentage. Of the same 74 players, he ranked 29th in turnover frequency. Again, a lot of that, you come up with pick and roll, where are you going? You're going into the three-point line. You're going inside. If he can get all the way to the basket, things end up looking a little bit better. But if he's forcing that in-between area, again, he runs into problems. So again, like I said, a lot of his issues, the main source of his struggles offensively come from the fact he doesn't have a counter once he gets inside the three-point line. So he can improve his ball handling to get there, add a floater, add a pull-up jumper, and just become more decisive when he gets there. Probe around a little bit. he does that, I think that will really, really help him. I hope that's the main area of his game that he worked on in the offseason. It will fix so many of his issues. Now, we get to this area is what is most concerning for me and where he has to improve on. If he has any chance. If he has any chance of becoming the player many people want him to be, this area has to be improved this season. Absolutely has to. He has not been a good finisher at the rim through 3 years. He's been, quite frankly, a poor finisher at the rim. For a guy as athletic as Ivey is, and as easy as he gets to the rim, he gets there all the time. It's not a matter of can he get there. He's a paint touch. He can get to the rim. That's not the problem. The problem is once he gets there, can he hit the shot? And he just hasn't been able to do so. Through 3 years in his NBA career, he ranks around the 30th percentile, 35th percentile, shooting at the rim. When you look at his points per shot at the rim, I had someone look this up for me that had Synergy. Points per shot at the rim, he ranked around the 5th percentile on points per shot at the rim. That is awful. If Ivey is going to become this hyper-efficient player, this hyper-crazy offensive guy that helps the Pistons' half-court offense take this next step, and that's what he's being relied upon to do so. If he is going to do that, and it's well within his capability, he can do that. He can improve in these areas. Again, usually the hard part for people is getting to the rim and getting these looks. He gets there nonstop. He can get there whenever he wants. He's fast enough. He's quick enough. He's athletic enough. That's not the problem. It's if he can improve. And that's the area that I am going to be watching for the most this year. If you're going to be a hyper-athletic scoring guard, and Ivey, again, is one of the quickest, fastest players in the league. If one of your main aspects is I can get to the rim, you have to be able to do two things then once you get to the rim. You have to be able to finish, and you have to be able to kick out. The kickouts, I think he actually got a little bit better with this past year. He can continue to get better, but that he can get a little better. The main issue, you can't be getting to the rim as often as he does and be as bad of a finisher as he was. So if he makes that jump at the rim, even if he doesn't improve in the mid-range area, let's say he doesn't add as much of a floater. Let's say he doesn't add as much of a pull-up jumper. Let's say he still struggles a little bit with decision-making in the in-between area. If he's still getting to the rim as much as he did his rookie or this past year, if he's still getting to the rim that much, but instead of being in the 5th percentile on points per shot, he's now in like the 50th percentile, he's going to be a hyper-efficient player because he's going to hit threes. Maybe not at 40%, maybe around 38%, but he's going to hit threes. If he can then hit his shots at the rim, you're looking at a guy who will be around, I think, around 21 points per game on a really good efficiency, around 58% true shooting is what I would say. If he just took a jump at the rim. He has to do that. That's part of who he is. That's part of the shots he hunts out. It's the part of his game that defenses have the most problem stopping him. If he can actually become a good finisher, that's what will take him to the next level. But that has to happen. Absolutely has to happen. So let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kukiel. Do you guys agree with the areas I believe Ivey has to improve upon? And do you believe he can make those jumps offensively this year for the Detroit Pistons? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kukiel. Coming up, the other avenue is he has to become a two-way basketball player. He has to improve defensively. We'll talk about where he struggles the most defensively coming up and how he can improve in that area. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, which I know I'd be doing a ton of. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. I've been using it for a few years now. It's super fun to use, super self-explanatory, super easy, but obviously, most importantly, it's super fun to use. So if you're ready to play, download the app today, FanDuel, at FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to download the app and to place your first $5 bet, and if it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app with FanDuel. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. All right, so the other area in which Ivey can make this jump and become a real impactful player. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the NBA in 2025, where it is heading, you see this on all the great teams, the Boston Celtics, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers, especially the Indiana Pacers. If you want to build your team with like one star and you have a co-star and a bunch of really good role players. But you look across, even outside of the Indiana Pacers, you look at all the great teams in the NBA, this is where they're trending towards. You look at even the New York Knicks. Even if you look over at the Golden State Warriors. I mean, you can go on and on and on. The Houston Rockets this past year. Maybe not as much with KD, but still, they kind of still have it a little bit, but they have a little bit more star power now. You look at all these teams. What do they have? They have size, they have length, and they have guys who are able to attack closeouts, make decisions off the dribble, keep the ball moving, but most importantly, are impact players on the defensive end of the floor. You look at a guy like Andrew Nembhard. He's not a 20-point-per-game scorer. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and shoot 20 times. But he's infinitely more valuable than all the guys I named earlier in this podcast. He's infinitely more impactful and valuable. Why? Because he's able to run the offense. He doesn't turn the ball over as much. He can attack closeouts and make a pass. He can hit shots, but he's an absolute dog and pest defensively. Extremely strong, gets into people. He's that right there is a perfect example of a guy who doesn't score 20 points a game, isn't going to be asked to do that kind of thing offensively, but is infinitely more impactful than the guys that you see score 19, 18 points a game. Guys like Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, Malik Monk. Like, he's better and more impactful than all of those guys. And you can go down the list from all these teams. That's where the league is trending towards, having two-way players that can do multiple things on the floor. Ivey has the capability, or has at least the raw skill set offensively to be able to do that. He has to improve, but he has the raw skill set. Like, I think everyone believes or will be willing to say that Ivey is capable. If Ivey in next year became a much better playmaker, attacked closeouts better, continued to be a good three-point shooter, and got a little better as a pick-and-roll guy, I think everyone believe, like, that wouldn't be something like, oh, I can't see that happening. Yeah, I think everyone could see that happening. So that I think he can check off the offensive parts where you can do multiple things on the offensive end. I think that's well within his capability to improve to and get to and develop. So check that off. I'm not worried, or I don't want to say I'm not worried. I need to see it happen, but he has the skill set to do it. So check that off. Defensively, though, is where he has to get to. And the area in which Ivey struggles the most defensively is off ball. Off ball, he often gets lost off ball. He just isn't paying attention. Ball watches, doesn't make the right rotation. Is late to a rotation. That's where he struggles the most. If you look at the on-off with Ivey defensively, when he was off the floor, the Pistons had a 112 defensive rating. When he was on the floor, they had a 117 defensive rating. They are 5 points worse defensively with him on the floor. And again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's not very good off ball. He gives more effort, he gives more effort defensively on ball in isolation, where a lot of guys that you would think of as not the greatest defenders, that's the area where most of them usually give the most effort. Because it's just one-on-one. You know, I can just give it my all, get super physical. You know, I'll super try hard here. And that's where you see a lot of those guys, you know, when are they at their best? When they happen to try their hardest in a one-on-one situation. Ivey can do that. He can be better. He's not like going to be great on ball, but that's where he's probably at his best right now when he's just in a one-on-one situation. But even then, he's not the greatest. His screen navigation is not very good. If he gets hit by a screen, it's usually immediately a 2-on-1 advantage. And that was something that JB Biggerstaff, he didn't directly call out Ivey during the season, but around January where Duren was really struggling and he kind of called himself out defensively, they talked about, I was at one of the games after one of them when he talked about this, he kind of referenced how when guys are getting stuck on screens and guys aren't navigating screens well, what you're doing is you're putting your big in a terrible position. And now he has to play 2-on-1, and it's not like he's playing 2-on-1 with a trailer as a, his guard is trailing, so he has some help. If you're just getting wiped out on the screen, you're not even in the trail position. Now he's just basically playing 2-on-1, and he has to basically give up one of them. So that's where Ivey has to improve the most defensively. I would say screen navigation and off-ball attention. And IQ off ball wise. Now that's somewhere he struggled very much. He was bad, flat out bad at it in college, and he hasn't been a good defender so far in his career. If he can he has the size. He's a strong guy. He has a good wingspan. He is fast. So you would think that he could be a little bit more active off ball. But I don't know if I don't think this is Ivey's pathway to becoming the player everyone wants him to be. Is this a pathway? 100%. If he took this jump on defense, that would be insane. That would be great for him. He would be an incredibly impactful player, and the Pistons would 100% want him on this team long term and would sign him. I just don't think this is the likely pathway he would go down. I think the likely pathway is what we talked about last segment, where he becomes a much better finisher. And now that he's getting to the rim 50% of the time, he's now finishing at like 65%, 67% at the rim. And he's making better decisions at the rim. Or, okay, he's getting in the in-between area. He can slow down a little bit, read the defense, make a kick out. Or he improves his ball handle to where he gets in the in-between area, can snake a pick and roll, and now he's getting to a floater or a pull-up jumper. Stuff like that. That's his most realistic pathway to making this jump, and that's where everyone will be watching for this season. Ivey is an uber-talented guy. He has a lot of raw talent. He is a crazy athlete. Crazy athlete. One of the fastest, quickest players in the entire NBA. And it is in there somewhere. Whether he can get it out, we will see this year, but it is in there. We saw it for 5 games before he went down. We saw it. We saw what it looks like offensively for him. We saw it. Can he actually hold that for an entire season? Can he improve as a finisher for an entire season? Can he be trusted to run point guard minutes when Cade's not on the floor? Can he actually be that combo guard? These are the questions he has to answer this year in a contract year. And if he does answer these questions, I think he will be getting a contract and he will be a Piston for a long time. If he doesn't answer those questions this year, I think just like we mentioned with Duran in the last episode, if they don't answer those questions, both of them, if he doesn't answer these questions, we could be having conversations either at the deadline or at the end of this upcoming season. But again, Ivey has it in front of him. He's being given the chance. He's going to be given the usage, and he showed us glances of it this past year. Unfortunately, the season was taken from him, and he didn't get a chance to build on it. He'll have another chance to build on it this year. Hopefully he does, and if he does, the Pistons will take a big jump, and Ivey will get paid a good bag. So let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at KookHill. Do you guys believe Jaden Ivey will make this jump? And where does he most need to improve on to make this jump? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at KookHill. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.